It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik today on our platform of Dharma Live and ABP Live. My name is Chetna Kaushik and I am here interviewing the storyteller, the illustrator, the mythologist, Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik. Welcome to the platform, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. It's such an honor to have you here. Now, I only have, read and studied mythology for the past few years, say about 4-5 years only, but you have been doing it for so many years. You have been someone who has written such beautiful stories, and that too now, the stories that used to be fables for us, the stories that we used to hear as young kids that I never thought that, I would be able to see them as an adult perspective also. But you have brought in so many layers and layers of each of those mythological stories for us to cherish, for us to understand. It is such a pleasure to have you here on this platform, and I'm so happy to welcome you here. I'm going to start with that, since I'm just talking about your illustrious career till now as a storyteller, as an illustrator, as a mythologist. What does a young Devdutt Pattanaik, an 18-year-old Devdutt Pattanaik, would look at right now to this Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik and think like, how did your whole journey happen, and what was the most fascinating thing about mythology? What was it that attracted you and fascinated you about mythology and its characters?
See, I've always been a hard worker and I enjoy working. So I don't differentiate between work and life. For me, my work is life and life is work. When I was in a yoga institute long time ago in Santa Cruz, the teacher once made this very casual comment which stuck with me, saying that, jo ped hote hain, the trees don't take holidays. They keep going and producing fruit and all day long. They don't have work-life balance. They don't have weekdays. So why do we as human beings do that difference? And I think that sort of struck with me. So I work every day. I will read every day. I will write every day. I will do official engagements every day. For me, everything is part of life, so it just becomes a routine. So producing this thing is like very natural to me. It's not effort at all.
So, sir, since we're talking about mythology and, the fascination of mythology, I want to know from you, which is the most fascinating character of mythology for you?
So, I'm born and brought up in Bombay. So, I'm more a Bombaya than an Odia.
Yes. Exactly.
So, it's something that I always call myself a non-resident Odia. And just as non-resident Indians always think about India, non-resident Odias always think about Odisha. And I think you grow up and you realize as a child how different cultures are, and Bombay is a melting pot. But I realized what connected people was the stories they would tell. So we had neighbors from Kerala who would tell us about Guru Vayurappa, with Krishna and that. And my mother would say, oh, we don't know what is this. And she would see the photos and say, ye Krishna hai. And we would have a Jagannath statue, which would be very different. The Gujarati neighbor would have Srinathji, which looked very different. So everyone had a different Krishna story to tell. And I think in some ways that influenced me in sort of learn. And at that time, I didn't think it would become such a big thing, but I was just interested in the stories. Right. And I realized that what Amar Chitra Katha and Chandamama tells you is a very small part long ago. When I went to a bookshop long time ago, I remember I picked up a book on the Bhagavata. I think it was written by Kamala Subramanian, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. And I realized that, oh my God, what I know from Amar Chitra Katha is so less. There is so much more to the story. And then more I dug, the more it was like a khazana. And I keep saying, I'm like Allah, Ali Baba in his cave with all the treasures. And I'm surprised not many people discover it. They sort of stick to one book or one story. But I think the amount of knowledge India has and we have is just fascinating.
So I had the good fortune of listening to Krishna 360, which our dear friend Deepika sent to me, which is an amazing story. Krishna from 360 degrees is what you had narrated in that. And I want to know this, that how fascinating is the character of Krishna for you, and why did you choose Audible to tell this particular story of Krishna?
So, I try to explore different mediums, and with Audible, I'm allowed to experiment with many ideas. And I think many people like oral storytelling. So you write books for some people, but there are many
Yeah.
people who prefer an audio version of it. Some prefer a live version, some people a video version. So there are different versions in which a knowledge can reach people. And I think the audio version is something that has always been fascinating. And when Audible said that, will you do this for us? I was very excited. And then I came up with this, we sort of went back and forth with ideas. And I said, I want to do Krishna 360 degrees.
Yes.
And 360 degrees is because it's pradakshina, no? You take a pradakshina
Yeah.
of God, you go around, it's a 360-degree turn that you take. And that is what I'm talking about. So it is really a pradakshina, but you make it cool, sounding 360 degrees sounds cool, but it's really a pradakshina because you
Yeah.
want to see Krishna from every angle. So across 12 episodes, very slowly and systematically, you understand Krishna as a child, as a youth, as a lover, as a warrior, as a king, as a husband, as a father. So you see Krishna in different ways. Like Krishna as a wrestler. We don't talk about Krishna as a wrestler. Malla Yuddha. We always see Krishna with his flute and dancing and singing, but we don't realize he's also a cowherd who used to fight bulls and who would be fighting animals and wild animals. And that is why he can defeat the royal wrestlers. So these little details is something that I would like to, the audience to enjoy and, sort of share with them.
So, I just want to firstly just want to put in a little compliment that if I also heard, I heard a portion of Krishna 360, which Deepika was kind enough to send me. And in that, it is so fascinating, especially the fact that the youth today is always driving, always on the move, always doing something. Listening to that story, firstly, brings us so much closer to the mythology that we have. And additionally, the way you have mentioned, the oligarchy part, for example, right? It was so fascinating for me to listen to something like that. So what goes inside your mind when you're trying to, these are layers of a story, often from an adult perspective also, right?
Yes.
From a young perspective, we're like, हाँ एक राजा था, एक रानी थी, एक कृष्ण जी थे, एक राधा थी, तो जी ऐसे ऐसे हुआ. But then you are bringing out layers and layers of that particular story. How does that happen?
See, I believe the children will one day grow up. they will be exposed to, they need to be exposed to refined ideas. It's like, my father, when we were children, he would take us to 5-star hotels, which was very expensive, but he would say once a month, we will go and eat there. He says, you must experience other kinds of lives, how when you grow up, how to sit, how to eat, how to use cutlery. He insisted we would use chopsticks to use noodle. When Maggie would come, we would try it at home. He would say, you have to experience life. That's what growing up is all about. So when you talk to children, I can talk down to their children and keep them at that level and never let them grow up. And I see many grown-up people still want to remain children. But what I am trying to do is, through stories, help them understand Krishna in a larger ecosystem. Help them understand how, just through the story of Krishna, I can understand politics, I can understand economics, I can understand philosophy, I can understand. So all those strands that there is in the Jarasandha Krishna fight, a fight of a empire builder, a monarch. What about oligarchy? Can there be a kingdom without a king? Because the Yadu kingdom has no king. What does it mean? Is it a Janapada? Is it a republic? Is it a democracy? So it makes you think. We don't know. We don't have all the answers. But it makes you think that, it is possible to have a kingdom without a king. A team can exist without a team leader. We can work together and these are ideas that I want people to think about. Why is Krishna never wearing people on television, they show them wearing crown, everybody looks like a king. Krishna is never a king. Ram is the king. So you have Rama Pattabhishekam, which is the coronation of Ram, which is a very auspicious Shubha image. Krishna is never shown as being crowned. And I always tell people, Dwarakadhish means defender or protector of Dwaraka. It doesn't mean king of Dwaraka. Because he has an elder brother called Balram. There are other Yadavas. There is Satyajit, there is Kritavarma. They are a group of people who manage the affairs of state. There is no king. It's almost like the old Senate in the Roman times, or the Greeks had these polis where they would sit together. So these stories come around the time when Greeks were in India. So we have to understand these layers. especially the child, you want your child to be smart. If you don't want your child to be smart, then you will show him cartoons and just show him dum-dum, fighting, screaming, shouting, and the child will remain very mediocre. But out of all children, 10% of children will become smart. And that's those 10% I'm focused on.
Wow. All right. So, since you're mentioning something so beautiful, again, for me, delving into your mind is something that is the most delightful of all times. So, I want to ask here that when you are talking, like you're just talking about different mythologies. Also, there's Greek mythology and there's Roman mythology. There are quite a few important and quite a few interesting similar characters also that we saw across Greek mythology. For example, I never knew when I read that Varun Dev is supposed to be a similar character in the Greeks also. Right. So was there some similar character in the Greek and the Indian mythology that was very fascinating for you as well? That you saw it, you were like, oh, they also have it.
So you've heard of Hercules, right?
Yes.
So one of the pieces is Hercules goes on this great adventure where he sort of kills a lion and all this. And people believe that when Balram doesn't fight in the Kurukshetra war and he traveled around the world, he became famous in other parts of the world and he became known as Hari Kula Esha, the lord of the Hari clan, which gave rise to Hercules. So that's a thesis. I mean, we don't know to prove it. It's great fun to hear it. But it's an idea which makes you, fascinates you. And we must remember Alexander came to India, and after Alexander, a lot of Indo-Greeks were part of Indian culture. And the Indo-Greek culture, the early, about 2100 years ago, 2200 years ago, some of the earliest coins that we have, Indo-Greek coins, have the earliest image of Krishna and the earliest image of Balaram are found on Indo-Greek coins. With the chakradhara, what we call chakradhar, what we call gadadhar, haladhar, all these images, the first images, Indo-Greek images. So that is something that is very fascinating, which, nice to, it's good to know these things. I think it's a good general knowledge question.
Definitely. So, all right. So, what we also know of generally, like just delving into a little bit more into this, is that how everything that each of our god carries, each of our lords carry, is also very symbolic of the things that are around them. Right. For example, if Krishna is wearing a particular Mayur Pank, so that Mayur Pank signifies something else. If he was a Gwala at that particular point of time, it signifies something else. What is this whole idea of symbolism into our mythology, and how should the younger generation should also have it? Like they should have it in their mind.
So if you study literature, you will understand that one of the things the human mind can do is write metaphors. So it's something that we don't realize, that humans can explain ideas that you don't experience, right? I can talk to you about something that I can't see. I can talk to you about, let's say I use words like refinement, or I use words like hard work and coagulation. And I'm using these words. I'm using words that you're familiar with, but I'm trying to explain to you unfamiliar concepts. Let me give you an example. I've got a little image over here to explain this. This is a famous Laddu Gopal image, right? This is a famous Krishna's image. Laddu Gopal.
Yes.
Now, my friend gifted it to me. It's from Udaipur. And this is an image of Laddu, but it's not Laddu really. It's Makhan ka Laddu. So it's butter. Now, it's just butter, right? It's a child holding butter. He's also called Navneet Priya. Navneet is the foam that comes out when you make butter. Now, you'll say, hey, there is butter. So simple. But milk is a very powerful metaphor. When you go to Shiva temple, you will offer kacha doodh. They'll keep saying kacha doodh. Don't boil the milk, give a kacha doodh to Shiva. Why? Because Shiva is a hermit. Jo milega, he's accepting it. But Krishna is a man of the world. He wants better ideas. So he'll say, nahi, kaam karke jo shram se jo milta hai, usse nikal. So how do you show shram? You're making butter. You work hard. You're churning. And now imagine I'm explaining this to a child, and I'll tell my child, okay, now I'm going to make butter. In the kitchen, the mother would take the child to the butter and she'll make butter, and the child will realize, oh, from milk, she's made curd, then she's made butter. Butter has come out, but there's something else left. Say, oh, this is Navneet. This is the foam and everything Krishna is liking. What is coming out of work? If I don't work hard, I will not get butter. So, jab tak tum kaam nahi karoge, you will not. I can't see the butter. You can only see the butter when you work. So only when you work will butter come. So, if you don't labor, you don't work, you don't do effort. And that's how the mother would educate the child. And that's how a simple thing like Laddu Gopal makes the child feel, abhi homework nahi karoge to tum life में कुछ नहीं मिलेगा तुमको पढ़ाई करना पड़ेगा. Knowledge is there in the book, but unless you read it, it will not go into your head. In the same way, makhan is there in milk, but you have to churn it out. So that's how simple things. So it's a metaphor. A symbol helps you understand something very powerful.
So you have told Krishna from 360 degrees, all the angles that you have covered of Krishna. So I want to know which is your favorite angle or your favorite degree of Krishna, whether it is the naughty prankster, the Bal Gopal, or is it the character of Krishna who is the Lord Shri Krishna, the one who gave us Gita. Which is your favorite?
So I've put an image. I knew you'd ask me this question. So put another image of Krishna over here. See, this is called the Kaliya Daman, right? This is Krishna dancing on Kaliya Nag. You can see the Kaliya Nag here, and it's a beautiful Chola bronze image. And it's the serpent. Now, when you see this image, there is a very famous line of in Telugu literature. It's not found in English, in Sanskrit or Hindi literature. In Telugu literature and in Sanskritized Telugu, written by this courtesan called Muddapalni, in which she says Krishna is why he's doing this. So we have heard he will poison release karta hai and all that kind of thing. Yes. But she says that he was saying that his tail is more beautiful than Radha's plait. And Krishna said, you can't do that. Radha's plait is more beautiful than your plate, and that is the reason he does the Kaliya Daman. So he sort of says, you can't tell Radha that your tail is better than Radha's plait. So Krishna is telling Radha that, this is all my adventures are done only to make you happy. I found that such a beautiful idea. Like, we always talk about the Veera Ras, heroic, and nowadays all these toxic masculine people want to be. But look at Krishna. He even transforms a battle into an expression of love for his Radha. And he says, so the poetry is very beautiful, where he says, I defeated Kaliya because he was trying to compete with your plait. And then he says, you know what? Govardhan said it is more beautiful than your breasts. And therefore I lifted it and said, no, you're not. So this kind of beautiful visualization, rasa, through which you are explaining even Veera Rasa, because this is an aggressive posture, and bhakti at the same time. So all this, so I like this kind of images of Krishna. These are my favorite images.
So the whole process of writing mythology and bringing out these multiple layers of the story, the amount of research and then the amount of hard work that goes through it, I want to ask you, how difficult, or rather how easy, whichever, how was the whole process to write the story and then to narrate it to the audience of Audible?
So the first thing is I bring love to the table, that I enjoy my work and I'm trying to bring love. The more you get stressed out, you're not going to create a good work. You should not, first of all, I'm very clear that I always tell myself that I am in front of people and I'm going to share with them something that they need and they want, and I have to give the best of it. So I'm like going into a kitchen and saying, okay, I have to go to the market. Now, imagine you're cooking food. How do you plan? You will say that I need a first course, a second course, so you'll have starters, and then you will have a soup, then you'll have a main course, then you'll have a dessert. So really the way you prepare a story is exactly the way you prepare a meal. And once you decide the course, then you say, okay, I'll go to the sabzi market, I'll buy these vegetables, I'll buy these fruits, I will buy these cereals, pulses. There should be some different flavors should be there. So there should be some joy, some sorrow, some valor, some conflict. So in the same way, you'll say, thoda khatta hona chahiye, thoda meetha hona chahiye, thoda tikha hona chahiye. So the way you prepare flavors and different textures. So you plan it out and make a list. And I'm a very structured guy. I use structure a lot. So I do that a lot. So I spend a lot of time planning and creating the structure. And I always begin with the whole in mind and then grow deeper and deeper and deeper and go into delta and delta. So I'll say, okay, I have to talk for about 6 hours because it's a 12-hour show. It's a 12-episode show. It's a roughly 30 minutes approximately. It's always changes, but 30 minutes is it. So 6 hours. So 6 hours, matlab in 30 minutes, if I'm going to talk to someone, how do I turn Krishna's life into 12 episodes? So divided by 12, kaise karoge? So I go into this very lot of mathematics. Once the emotion is in place, so a lot of mathematics goes into place, but ultimately when it comes to execution, so you have to be a mixture of discipline, structure, love, all that has to come together. Yeah. And it's the more important thing is it's not going to be perfect. And I'm okay at being imperfect. It's okay. I forgive myself. I'm like, it's okay. And I also tell my producers, who have been very kind, I must say, that, don't control it, because the magic comes when I'm talking. If you control it, then audience knows कि आप ऐसे prepare करके बात किए हो, and they don't connect, they don't like it. That's an audio book. Yeah. An audio book is it doesn't have that kind of this is an audio show. I want them to feel that their uncle is sitting next to them and telling them stories. Their brother is sitting next to them and telling them stories. I want them to get that feeling to as a sort of it pause. It's not perfect. It's not polished. And that is important. Otherwise, an audio book and audio show has to be different. An audio book will be very clean, very structured, because you're just reading it out and you have to do it properly. Audio show will have the emotional. Podcast will be more casual. So it is different. So you have to work at that. I just practice also. I mean, I am 25 years into this. I do a lot of work. It's like, asking a Shreya Ghoshal to sing. She will just do it like in a second, no problem. Riyaz ki koi zarurat nahi. I'm sure she still does riyaz every day. But these, what happens with practice. But organization, structure, emotion, all that has to be in place.
So I want to know then, since you're talking about that you plan so much and all that, how does the day of Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik look like from the start? How do you start your day and how does it get into this whole work for you?
So if I wake up at 7:15, I'm on my desk. Yeah, I'll be on my desk and I will not leave my desk till about lunchtime. I'll be working. Unless I'm traveling, I'll be working. So every day, 6 hours, 7 hours of on the desk, I'll be doing research, writing, drawing. That will happen. And then in the afternoon, I do all the administrative work. A lot of administrative work. I schedule interviews in the afternoon. The work is the inputs that I give to people happens in the morning. In the evenings, I do for other work and socializing, and then that's how it works out. So that's what I am. I enjoy working. I look forward to waking up in the morning to do the next research or to read the next book or something like that. So I love it. I really love it. And I think that I try to bring that love into my work also.
That I believe is something that, it is an experience to also talk to you about Krishna here, sir. Mr. Pattanaik, I also want to ask you here, how was the whole audio experience of narrating Krishna 360?
At that time, when you're narrating, you're not sure because you're not hearing it back and you don't do an audio play immediately because I just go with the flow. So I'm a little nervous and I'm waiting for my sound engineers to tell me that it's okay technically as well as sound, they can understand it. And I have certain criteria. I tell them that in these 3 things you tell me and I'll re-record it and all that. So I am a little anxious at that time. I am anxious because I'm not sure what the output will be. It's unlike a writing where you can keep editing it a sentence again and again. Yes. A word spoken is recorded. It's done. I mean, it's not a live show, so you can re-record it, but it is gone. It's gone. You can't say pull it back and edit it. So it's a different medium and it gives you, initially I was like a lot of hesitation, but over time it has become easier. It has become easier for me.
We have talked about Krishna 360 so much. We've talked about Krishna so much. I want to ask you one question here. Which other mythological character, according to you, is also very fascinating and maybe you'd want to narrate about them the next time? Like, which is the character that you would want to bring alive the next time?
I'm trying to focus. Of course, it will be the same Ramayana, Mahabharata and all that. So I focus on Ravana is one character that I'm interested in exploring a lot.
Yes. And a lot of people do not know that the Shiv Strotam that they hear of, the Tandav Strota, is written by Ravana, and I was so surprised when I read it. It was such a huge thing. So please do that all in, and I hope that right now Audible is listening to me also, and the first person is going to listen to it.
Thanks.
we have already talked about the next mythological character, which is Ravan. So I do want to ask here a little fascinating story that you have about Ravan, if you do. That has been something that not many people know.
So there are many folk tales around Ravan, and not everybody, these folk tales are local stories. So one is, of course, the Valmiki Ramayana, which is the national Sanskrit work. But there is a lot of Sanskrit plays, for example, that we don't get access to, like Pratima Nataka, which is written by Bhasha around 1800 years ago. The Bhasha, one of the earliest Sanskrit playwrights, wrote this play, and it's slightly controversial, but it's also fun because Ravan comes to Ram's kutir, and he says, as a Brahmin, and he says, I'm an educated Brahmin. I've studied the Vedas, the Puranas, the Itihasas, the Dharma Shastras, and I'm an expert in Shraddh.
Okay.
And Ram says, "Oh, you're expert in Shraddh. My father passed away, and every year I do Shraddh ceremonies. What would you suggest? Because I'm in the middle of the jungle. I don't know what to do." And he then lists a whole bunch of food that should be offered to the ancestors. And he mentions only animal products.
Oh, okay.
And we don't realize that Dharma Shastras nowadays we offer only rice and barley and till, sesame to the ancestors. But in the Dharma Shastra period, they used to offer non-veg. They used to offer fish, birds, animals, rhino. And he says the golden deer in the mountain of the Himalayas. So he's mentioning Himalayas. So Himalaya, golden, you should get the meat and give it to your father. So the Sone Ke Mrig has nothing to do with Sita wanting the golden mrig. It is Ravan saying that this is the best ideal meat for a king, is the golden deer's meat in Himalaya. And Ram goes and Sita is kidnapped. So this is from a play. And I found it very interesting. It's a play. It's a Sanskrit play. It doesn't mention the Valmiki Ramayana. It is a very different story. It is talking about non-veg being offered in Shraddh, which is like, it will upset so many people today. And this is a play. I mean, I am not saying it. Bhasa is saying it. Please talk to him if you have issues. And most important, Sita is not involved with the Sone Ki Mrig, where they say Sita told that she wants a golden mrig. And here it is. So look at the story. I found that story very fascinating. And this is again only the Sanskrit play. And only if you've read that play will you know the story. Or listen to Devdutt Pattanaik and his audience.
So, sir, Janmashtami is very close by. So, I wanted to know which is your favorite story of Sri Krishna, and why people should listen to it. And it is for all of our audience right now, all of the Dharma live audience and ABP live audience, that one favorite story of Krishna which you would love to narrate for them.
So, one of the stories that with Krishna is this. Well, there are so many stories. I'm now trying to figure out which is the best story to tell you. So Krishna is dark complexion, kala rang ka hai, bilkul kala. And of course, nowadays we make him blue, and we don't want to deal with because we have a color consciousness. Right now, even a Krishna on television is white, and nobody has a problem with that. He looks like white. But Krishna was so dark that he would always feel upset. And it's a very famous Bollywood song. Why am I so dark and why is Radha so fair? And he's always talking about his color. And his mother says, if you drink milk, you'll become fair. And therefore, Krishna is all the time drinking milk because he thinks he'll become fair. And then the mother says, you're the most beautiful child in the world. So she puts chandan on his face, and she dresses him like a girl so that nobody puts nazar on him. So Krishna is always dressed up like a girl. And I find it very fascinating. Why is it fascinating? Because now if you go to America, they will talk about gender neutral children. In our country, Krishna is dressed up like a girl and nobody has a problem, and he's called Purushottam. So we have no issues with these sari pehna, ladki ko, ladka ko, kuch nahi. They make such a toxic society now. They always have been, but we don't realize our culture was saying that children should experience all genders. So boys can wear dresses as long as children, they have to. So the girl will dress up like Krishna, the boy will dress up like Radha, and nobody has a problem. Nobody has a problem. And then after a certain age, of course, then the children decide what they want to do and it changes. But in today's society, where we are talking about gender, sexuality, look at this. Yashoda is so smart.
It was such an honor and such a pleasure, sir, to have you here. And I just want to have a little message from you for all of your viewers of ABP Live and Dharma Live.
I think I'm glad that you are doing shows like this, which make people ask questions about our culture. And I feel that shows we should not talk about, while the West uses words like pride, we should use words like respect.
Yes, that is why I use Samman. That's exactly why I use Samman.
So, Samman is the word for pride, and the word for respect we use it is Adar. Adar. And Adar karna is because the West is always thinking about themselves. Indians will always say, "Sabko adar do, adar se baat karo." Nobody should be treated with disrespect. तुम्हारे घर में जो भी आया, there's a very famous story of Krishna where Krishna is very hungry and he goes to these rishis who are performing yajna and he says, "We are very hungry. Can you give us food to eat?" And they're busy doing some homa. And they say, "No, we have no time for you. We're going to feed the gods." And he looks at them and says, "There is a hungry person standing next to you and you are so busy with feeding the gods. That's not right." Such a simple story. And this is from the Bhagavata Puran, where he's standing next to him. Of course, they say God came. No, but it means every hungry person is God. Sabko adar se rakho. So adar is, I think, a very nice word. And I'm glad that Dharma Live and ABP Live are trying to help people understand our culture, not with a sense of pride, but in order to inculcate respect.
So this was Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik with us. Thank you so much, sir, for being here on the platform of Dharma Live and ABP Live. I was overwhelmed with so much of joy listening about Krishna and of course listening about the whole work and process that goes through a writer's mind, a storyteller's mind, an illustrator's mind. So we're going to get to you more such interviews, more such amazing people, more such storytellers, mythologists and amazing personalities right here. So stay tuned. This is Chetna Kaushik taking your leave. Until next time.